It always starts the same way. You think the wilderness is your friend. You think the trail is just dirt, trees, and maybe a good story to tell when you get back home. I've been hiking for years. I've seen black bears, gotten caught in storms, even twisted my ankle 10 miles out. But nothing prepared me for what happened to Brian. He didn't just disappear. He vanished, right in front of me. People don't believe me when I tell them. They think I was tired, confused by the rain, maybe even making it up. But I swear to you, I saw what I saw. And if you've ever been caught in the woods at night, with the rain pouring down and no sound but your own breathing, then maybe you'll understand. Because sometimes the forest doesn't just watch you. Sometimes it takes. I've always loved the wilderness. Something about walking for hours under nothing but trees and clouds that clears the mind better than anything else. And Brian, he was the same way. We'd been friends since college, and if anyone was made for the outdoors, it was him. Careful, smart, never the type to take stupid risks. We'd done dozens of trails together. Rockies, Appalachians, even a trip to Yosemite once. But this time, it was the Cascades. We planned it for weeks, just 3 days, nothing extreme. Forecast said storms, but we laughed it off. We'd hiked in bad weather before, and the rain always made it feel wilder, more real. Brian packed like a pro. Extra tarp, emergency kit, even his old compass hanging from his belt. I teased him about being too prepared, but the truth is, I felt safer with him there. I didn't know then that the storm wasn't the danger. The danger was what we couldn't prepare for. The kind of thing you don't find in guidebooks, or ranger warnings, or even campfire ghost stories, because what took Brian, it left no trace at all. We started the trail early, rain dripping from the branches overhead, but it wasn't the storm that made me uneasy. Hesitantly, the forest was too quiet. No birds, no squirrels, no rustle of small life in the underbrush. Just our boots squelching in the mud and the rain pattering down. As we hiked deeper, Brian pointed out the first carving. Curious, it was on a tree trunk. Deep cuts in the bark forming a shape I didn't recognize. Not letters, not numbers, just jagged lines, fresh and raw. We figured it was some teenager's idea of fun, shrugged, and kept walking. Nervous, but then we saw another, and another, each one different, carved at strange angles, almost like they were guiding us somewhere. I tried to laugh it off, but Brian didn't. He just stared at one for a long time, running his fingers over the grooves, uneasy. The rain was getting heavier. The trail was turning slick, but the carvings, they made the forest feel wrong, like it wasn't ours anymore. And for the first time, I felt something I couldn't shake, like we were being led. Brian had always been the stronger hiker, calm. He walked faster, carried more, and still never seemed to tire. So when the trail curved and he told me he'd scout ahead, I didn't think twice. His red jacket was easy to spot against the dripping green woods. I slowed down for just a moment to sip water. When I looked up again, he was gone. No jacket, no footsteps, just rain. Confused, I figured he'd gone farther than I thought. I hurried around the bend, but the path stretched on, empty. The rain fell heavier, soaking the mud until it sloshed under my boots. I cupped my hands and called his name. The forest swallowed my voice whole. I tried again, louder, but nothing came back. No answer, no echo, uneasy. That was when I saw it, his backpack, lying in the middle of the trail. The straps weren't torn, like you'd expect if he tripped. They were cut. Clean. Deliberate. My pulse hammered in my ears. I crouched down, brushing wet pine needles off the pack. His water bottle was still inside. Compass, too. Brian would never leave these behind. I straightened, heart racing, and then I saw the boot prints. Shaken. The prints were fresh. His boots. They left a line of deep impressions veering off the trail into the underbrush. Not wandering, not stumbling. A straight path, as if he'd chosen to go that way. But why? I stepped closer, rain dripping down my face. Each footprint looked normal until the last few. Then something changed. The edges blurred, like he'd started dragging his feet. Nervous. I followed, ducking branches, leaves slapping my arms. The sound of the storm grew stranger, heavier, almost muffled. And underneath it, faint but unmistakable, I thought I heard it, Brian's voice, calling my name.
I froze. It didn't sound right. The tone was warped, as though the rain itself carried it, stretching it through the trees. Still, I followed, every step louder than it should have been. My flashlight beam caught wet bark, twisting roots, and there, something dark wedged into the hollow of a tree. It was his jacket, stuffed inside like trash. The red fabric was soaked and heavy, and right above it, carved deep into the wood, was another one of those strange symbols. I stumbled back, heart pounding. The prints carried on into the darkness, and I knew then, if I kept following, I might never come back. I forced myself to keep going. The boot prints were all I had, and if Brian was out there, I wasn't about to abandon him. But the deeper I pushed, the stranger it became. The trees grew closer together, their trunks scarred with more carvings. Dozens now. Shapes and lines burned into the bark, wet with rain, glistening like wounds. Uneasy. The prints ended at another hollow tree. This one was wider, darker, almost like an opening into the earth itself. I leaned close, shining my light inside. That's when I saw them. His clothes, his shirt, his pants, crumpled and soaked, stuffed into the hollow as if someone had hidden them. My stomach turned. Brian wouldn't strip in the freezing rain. He wouldn't leave his things behind, not willingly. And carved just above the hollow, burned into the wood, was a symbol bigger than the rest. Circles crossing lines, jagged edges curling into something like eyes. As I stared, rain dripping off my hood, a sound rose behind me. A voice. Brian's voice. It called my name. Clear. Close. Too close. I spun with the flashlight, but the trail was empty. Only rain, trees, and carvings staring back at me. I bolted. I don't even remember choosing to run. My legs just carried me, crashing through the underbrush, mud splashing up my pants. Behind me, the voice kept calling. Brian's voice, only it wasn't him. It was too steady, too smooth, repeating my name over and over. Every time I tripped, I thought I felt it closer. Not footsteps, not breathing, just presence. The carvings flashed past in my light, and the storm distorted everything. Every crack, every snap sounded like something reaching for me. I yelled for Brian once more. Nothing answered but the rain. And in that moment, I knew I wasn't chasing him. Something was chasing me. When the trees finally thinned, I saw it, the faint shimmer of the trailhead through the sheets of rain. My car was still there, sitting in the lot like nothing had happened. I didn't stop running until my hands hit the metal door. I yanked it open, dove inside, and slammed the lock down. Relieved. For a long time, I just sat there, shaking, staring out the windshield. Nothing moved in the clearing. No figure, no voice, no Brian. Just rain hammering the roof. But in the distance, through the trees, I thought I saw a faint glow. Not lightning, not a reflection. It looked like symbols burning. The rangers searched for days. They combed the trail, sent dogs into the brush, even dragged the streams nearby. All they found was Brian's backpack and the carvings. They asked me to describe the symbols, but when I did, they just shook their heads, said it was probably kids or vandals. They never found him. Not a boot, not a bone, nothing. At first I dreamed about him every night. Sometimes he was walking just ahead of me, jacket bright red against the trees. Other times he was calling my name, voice echoing in the rain. Always out of reach. Years have passed, but I still don't hike alone anymore. And when the clouds roll in, when the forest goes quiet, and the rain starts to fall, I hear him.
Some places you find in the wilderness aren't on the maps, and sometimes you wish you never found them at all. It was supposed to be just another trip with two of my closest friends, Simon and Eddie. A weekend of beer, laughter, and campfires. Nothing more. But on the second day, after hours of wandering through trails that weren't really trails, we stumbled onto something none of us expected. A hidden lake, and by its shore, a wooden shack. At first glance, it looked abandoned. Sagging roof, broken curtain, door hanging loose. But standing there, staring at it, I had the strangest feeling. Like it wasn't forgotten at all. Like it was waiting. We'd left Brooklyn late Friday afternoon, just three guys desperate to escape the noise and concrete. The drive was long, but by the time we reached Harriman State Park, the air felt cleaner, the trees taller, the world quieter. That first night was perfect. We pitched our tent by a smaller lake, grilled hot dogs over the fire, and passed a couple of beers around while catching up. It felt like the old days, easy, careless, like nothing could touch us out there. The next morning, we didn't really plan much. We just wandered. Simon was snapping pictures of mushrooms with his phone. Eddie kept joking about spotting Bigfoot, and I was mostly soaking in the quiet. Hours later, the trail just ended. We cut across a patch of wet ground, pushed through some brush, and there it was, a hidden lake, and by its shore, a wooden shack. From a distance, it seemed harmless, just old wood, weathered gray, nothing special. But even before we stepped inside, I could feel it. Something about that place wasn't right. The closer we got, the worse it looked. The wood wasn't just weathered, it was splintered, soft in places like it had soaking up rain for decades. The single window had no glass, just a scrap of curtain rotting on the frame. The door creaked as Eddie pushed it open. We stepped inside one by one, boots crunching against damp boards. The air was heavy, thick with the smell of wet dirt and something sour that clung to the back of my throat. There wasn't much inside. The table in the center, warped and stained, A couple of broken chairs slumped in the corner, rusted nails sticking out of the walls. But it was the stains that held my eyes. Dark patches across the table, uneven and old. I touched one without thinking. Sticky. Eddie muttered, "Looks like blood," and Simon nodded. Then we saw the hooks, a dozen or so hammered into the walls at strange heights, empty now, but waiting. That was the moment I wanted to leave, but we didn't. We stayed. We left the shack behind and circled around its side, trying to laugh it off. Maybe it was a hunter's place, maybe just an old cabin. That's when Simon tripped. His boot caught on something metal sticking out of the dirt. At first, I thought it was a piece of junk, maybe a tool left behind. But when we cleared the soil away, the shape grew larger, round, hollow. After 10 minutes of digging, it came free. It was a helmet, heavy, iron, rusted, with a sharp point at the crown and 2 cross-shaped eye slits cut crudely into the front. Not smooth, not decorative, brutal. Simon held it up, laughing, calling it a medieval clan hood, but I couldn't laugh. It didn't look like something meant for war or even ceremony. It looked like something made to frighten. Eddie took it from him, muttering about how filthy it was, how it stank of rust and mud. He set it down hard on the ground, like he didn't want to touch it anymore. The 3 of us stood around it, rain dripping through the trees. Nobody said much. I couldn't stop staring at those eye slits. They weren't even. They weren't clean. They looked like they'd been hacked into the metal with rage. Simon broke the silence, saying he might try it on later. His voice was joking, but his eyes weren't. They lingered on the helmet too long, like something about it pulled at him. That was the moment I felt it for the first time. Like the shack wasn't the only thing waiting for us. That night, the forest pressed in heavier than usual. The fire was low, the rain steady, and we tried to act normal. Pasta on the camp stove, dumb jokes, the usual. But none of us mentioned the helmet, not directly. Hours passed, and then Simon got up without a word. He grabbed his flashlight and walked into the dark. We called after him, but he didn't answer. Eddie paced, muttering curses, blaming himself for letting Simon keep talking about the thing. I just stared into the trees, waiting for that thin beam of light to return. When Simon finally came back, his face was pale, empty. He sat down hard on the log by the fire, eyes fixed on the dirt. Eddie asked him where the helmet was. Simon whispered, "I threw it. Didn't want it looking at me." We pressed him. What did he mean, looking at him how? But he just shook his head. And for the rest of the night, Simon wouldn't speak another word. The fire burned low. The rain never stopped. And the woods felt very, very awake. None of us slept much that night. Every crack in the woods, every shift of the wind sounded like footsteps circling the tent. I kept picturing those jagged eye slits staring from the dark. At dawn, Eddie said what we all were thinking. "Let's pack up. Let's just go." We tore down camp faster than I thought possible. Tent half folded, stove still damp, everything shoved into the car. Nobody spoke. When I turned back for one last glance, Simon froze. His flashlight was still in his hand, shaking. Through the trees, far back, Where the shack should have been, a faint glow shimmered. Not firelight, not reflection. Something deeper. It pulsed once, like embers in the rain, then faded. Simon muttered, "It's watching." We didn't wait. We piled into the car, doors slamming, engine roaring to life. And as we sped down the wet road, I swear I could feel it. Something in the woods, following us with every mile. But I never turned my head to check. Back in the city, life returned to normal, or at least it tried to. We didn't talk about the shack. We didn't talk about the helmet. Weeks later, curiosity got the better of me. I searched online, park maps, old forums, local legends. Nothing. No mention of a shack by a hidden lake. No record of strange helmets buried in the dirt. It was like it had never existed at all. Simon recovered on the surface, but something in him changed. He laughed less, slept worse, and when his brother asked about the trip, he brushed it off like we'd gone fishing and nothing more. But I know the truth. I know what we saw, and I know what followed us home. Some nights, when the room is quiet and the city is asleep, I still see it. Two crooked cross-shaped slits, glowing faintly in the dark. Watching, waiting.
Some camping trips leave you with memories of laughter and firelight. Others leave scars you can't wash away. It was supposed to be a simple night in the Tennessee backcountry. Just me, Craig, and Tanner. 3 friends, a tent, a cooler of beer, and a fire. But when the sun rose the next morning, I walked to the truck to grab the coffee pot. And what I found stretched across the hood wasn't animal tracks or dew. It was skin. We'd done it 100 times before. Nothing fancy. Just drive out past the last stretch of paved road until the dirt trail got rough enough to feel like adventure. That evening was perfect. We set up the tent before the light faded, gathered wood, and got the fire going. The crackle of flames, the taste of cold beer, the sound of Tanner's dumb jokes, it all felt like the kind of night you don't forget for the right reasons. The woods around us were quiet, but not in a bad way, just peaceful. No traffic, no sirens, no neighbors, just the 3 of us, tucked into the dark with nothing but the fire's glow. We talked about old times, about work, about nothing at all. And when we finally crawled into the tent, belly full of smoke and beer, it felt safe, familiar. I didn't know that by morning, all of that comfort would be gone. That we'd wake up to something no one should ever find. The sky was just turning gray when I crawled out of the tent. The fire was nothing but a pile of ash, and Craig and Tanner were still snoring. I stretched, yawned, and walked over to the truck to grab the coffee pot from the back. That's when I saw it. Laid out flat across the hood was skin. Not fur, not hide. Skin, scraped clean, stretched carefully like someone had taken their time with it. The underside was raw and pink streaks of dark blood running down across the windshield. There was no head, no legs, just the sheet of it, glistening in the morning light. And the woods were silent. No birds, no wind, just me, the truck, and that thing. I froze at first, just staring. My hands were trembling, and all I could think was, who did this? Who was out there with us? I kicked at the tent, yelling for Craig and Tanner. They stumbled out, still half asleep, until they saw it. Their faces drained white. We didn't argue. We didn't talk. We just knew. Something was wrong. We tore down camp, shoving gear into the truck without folding it. Sleeping bags still wet, tent poles sticking out. I grabbed a stick, scraped the skin off the hood, and it landed in the mud with a wet slap. None of us looked at it again. The drive out was a blur. Tires spitting mud, trees whipping past. I kept checking the rearview mirror, half expecting to see someone or something standing in the road. Later that day, at a gas station, I made the mistake of asking about it. An old man behind the counter gave me this long, tired look. He said it wasn't the first time. People had been finding skinned animals on cars and porches for years, always out in the deep woods, always arranged, like a warning. Best thing, he told me, is don't go back. And we never did. Back home, I thought maybe I could forget it, but the image wouldn't leave me. That hood, streaked with blood, the skin laid out so carefully, like a message spelled out in silence. I couldn't stop picturing it, even as I washed the truck. Red water swirled down the driveway, but the hood felt stained, like it would never really come clean. I went online, searching late into the night. Forums, news clippings, old threads, and there they were. Stories almost exactly like ours. Campers waking to find skinned deer across their tents. Hunters coming back to find rabbits, foxes, even dogs stretched across the hood of their trucks. Always remote, always deliberate. Some said it was pranksters. Others swore it was something older, rituals tied to the land meant to keep outsiders away. One man wrote that he'd seen shapes in the trees after it happened to him, watching, waiting to see if he understood the message. He left, just like we did. But he said the feeling never left him. And now I know exactly what he meant. After that trip, we never camped again, not once. Craig put his gear in storage, Tanner sold his tent, and every time someone suggested the woods, the answer was silence. We never really talked about it either. It just hung between us like smoke you can't clear from a room. I kept the truck though. Same hood, same engine. I drive it every day. But I always keep the doors locked now, even in daylight. And no matter how much I scrubbed, I swear I can still see faint streaks across the paint, like shadows of what was there. Sometimes, when I'm parked late at night, I catch myself staring at that hood. My mind plays tricks on me, and for a second, I expect to see raw skin stretched across it again. And and I can't shake the feeling that whoever or whatever left it there the first time might not be done with me yet. It's been years now. City life swallowed me back up. Traffic, neon lights, crowded streets. You'd think the distance would erase it. But some nights, when the world is quiet, I still smell it, that sour, meaty stench that clung to my hands long after the hose washed the truck clean. Craig and Tanner don't answer when I bring it up. They change the subject, like ignoring it will keep it buried. But I can see it in their faces. They remember. Because deep down, we all know it wasn't just an animal someone left behind. It wasn't random. It was a warning. And the truth is, we didn't really escape. We just drove away.